Welcome to our mostly unscripted and unedited podcast. I'm Paulette Kydd, nutritionist.
And I'm her sister-in-law and bestie, Sarah Kydd.
We love discussing all things related to health, including mindset, self-care, and nutrition.
Join us as we share coffee, laughs, recipes, and random thoughts tossed in for good measure.
You'll leave each conversation feeling motivated and with actionable strategies that you can use right away to improve your health and help you stop feeling fat, foggy, and fatigued.
See you there.
Welcome back to our podcast. I'm Paulette Kydd.
I'm Sarah Kydd.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi.
So today we're talking about one of the things that we think is getting back to basics. So helping you to achieve your health goals. And it's about the power of the words that we use, whether they're spoken words, whether they're thoughts, but changing or being aware of the words that you're using so that you're using supportive language and not something that's going to deter you from or that feels defeating. For me, that's what it is. It's about, I want to feel empowered. I don't want to feel defeated. Right?
Yes.
So I thought we'd start with a little bit about how we came up with this topic. So it was a conversation we were having just a couple of days ago about reaching a goal and then what happens when we get there. And you shared a story with me. So why don't you share that now and then we'll go on from there.
Sure. Yeah. So I was, one of the things Paulette introduced me to this book, Atomic Habits by James Clear. And we talk about this book a lot. I think we have talked about it in past podcasts.
So. Yeah.
And that's funny. The words past podcast sounded weird in my head. And so I thought that I wasn't saying the words right for a second there. Anyway, I was, as it turns out. Those words were correct. But yeah, so one part of his book talks about goals versus building habits, because of course the book is about habits, Atomic Habits. And he illustrated the importance of working towards building habits as opposed to just working towards a goal, because the danger you run into is you get to the end, to the goal, and then you stop. Like marathon runners don't keep running for the rest of their lives after they reach the finish line in the marathon. They stop running because they got to the end. And that seems reasonable. But I fell into the exact trap that he was warning about in the book, where I reached a goal and then I eased off on the habits I had built. And what I ended up doing was just undoing all the progress I had made, because of course, if you don't continue, with your habits, you're not going to maintain the progress that you've made. And I didn't connect that because I was too focused on the goal and not as much on the habits I was building. So this is kind of where our conversation is going today. And I said, it's this work I have to do. There's this work that I have to do now for the rest of my life, right? That's what I said.
Yeah.
And you helped me find a better word.
Because when I heard you say this is work that I have to do for the rest of my life, I thought, that doesn't sound very fun. I don't think I'd want to do that. Right? Yeah. And I am very much interested in nutrition and health, obviously, as are you, but that just seems like work. And if you have one little slip up, that there it goes, it's gone, all that progress I made, right? So we talked about changing that word, and you suggested the word practice. How about I use the word practice? So this is a practice that I will do. Even saying practice for the rest of my life sounds better than work. But even, I don't know, when you say for the rest of my life, somehow that seems like a long time. And it may or may not be, but right. We don't have any control over that. Yeah.
No, but it also feels a bit like a sentence. Like I've been sentenced to do this thing for the rest of my life. And that's not what I meant. And so what you did in that moment, you heard what I said. I hadn't heard what I said. And so I didn't realize the word that I was using, work, had some negative connotations. I mean, there's a time and a place for work, but
absolutely,
practice makes so much more sense and holds such a different meaning, because I am learning that there are a lot of things in my life I won't be able to kind of keep up the pace that I want to keep up if I don't have an ongoing practice. It's like the practice of listening to someone when they're speaking, right? Like if we don't consciously, actively work at that, practice at that. I said work again. Practice it. We might lose that skill, right? That skill of truly listening. We need to check in and make sure, am I still doing that when we're trying to make mindful choices about how we plan our free time? It's a practice to, meal planning, whatever it is. Like, you can talk about anything. And I came up with that word because I love doing yoga, and I watch these yoga videos, and she talks about yoga as a practice. And I notice if I don't do my yoga practice for a certain amount of time, my body has to work back to the place that it was. Some of those poses or stretches feel more difficult because my body hasn't been practicing doing it. It is a practice. Yeah. So that's really helping me learn the difference between work and practice. Practice is a good thing.
Yeah. And so when you said that you didn't even hear yourself say the word work or think about what that meant. And I think that so much of what we do and say and think is automatic. And that if you can just take a minute to become more mindful of those things, like pay attention, it's intentional, and it requires a bit of effort to start doing that, to get in that practice. But like, that's how you grow as a person, is when you become aware of those things that you're doing and question whether that's the way you should continue doing it, or whether maybe there's an alternative, there's a different way of thinking about that. Like, it's actually really amazing when you start doing that, how the world kind of opens up. So, yeah. And some of the things that we do need to be automatic. Otherwise, we would just be thinking too hard all day long, right? You don't want to have to think about brushing your teeth, like all the steps, right? Like, just do it. But sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes other things don't serve us very well, and they could be better. So this is one of those things. But we did a podcast a while back about some of the words that we call them. What did we call them? Dirty words, or call them words that we hear people say that sound hopeful, so that sound positive, but they're not. They actually get in people's way of making progress towards their goals. So words like hope and wish and try. I'm going to try to eat better. Well, I hope that life will settle down and then I can get to eating healthy, right? Yeah. That kind of takes the pressure off, so it makes us feel better, but it's just an excuse using those kinds of words. So it's what would we use instead of I hope, I wish, I'm going to try?
Well, I mean, Yoda said, do or do not. There is no try.
Yeah. I like that.
He's very wise.
Yeah.
And it's true. Like, when we say we'll try, it's like we're getting ourselves off the hook if we don't do it, in case that doesn't work out. It's kind of like
afraid of failing, right?
Yes, exactly. So, I think instead of saying, like, I think we just remove try from the sentence. I'm going to try to work out tonight. I'm going to work out tonight.
Yeah.
Or I'm not going to work out tonight. Like, it's okay to not work out sometimes. Like, we can't do and be everything all the time.
Right.
And instead of saying I'm going to try and then letting ourselves off the hook every time we don't, we can make decisions and feel good about them, right? Like, I'm deciding that tonight I'm not working out, but I will work out Tuesday and Thursday this week. Whatever.
Yeah. So there's this part of your brain called the reticular activating system, RAS, and it takes the words and the thoughts that we have, and it interprets them as instructions. So if you think about, if you say, well, anything that you say about yourself, it will interpret that as an instruction instead of just a thought or an idea, right? So if you say, I'm going to try, right? That's very different from saying I'm going to. So let's give that RAS the instruction that we want it to do. So it's like, it creates this, we talk about it with our clients, we talk about the standard operating procedure. So that's essentially giving yourself parameters around anything that you want to do. So I'm only going to eat chips on Friday night, or I'm going to work out 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, even if it's only 10 minutes, whatever. Right. So we have these standard these minimums that we give ourselves. And so those kind of go along with these instructions that we give our reticular activating system. So like our brains are super powerful and really can be used to help us achieve the goals if we give it the right tools, the right words, the right thoughts, right? So we have so much control over that. Sometimes we think we don't, but we do, right? You can choose, as you're saying, choose those thoughts. So to go along with this, I just wanted to also talk about when you're choosing your goals, when you're choosing the habits or the things that you're going to start creating in your life, that there's this idea that you can use approach goals or avoid goals. So I just wanted to give an example of this because, again, this can be empowering. So an approach goal would be something that you are working towards, and to go along with this are habits that you're going to instill to get there. So you might have an approach goal. I'm going to start eating healthier, and so then you would have behaviors or habits that you're going to implement to get there. So I'm going to start grocery shopping, twice a week, and I'm going to get fresh vegetables every time I go. I'm going to get a minimum of 5 vegetables, or whatever that is for you. So these are things you're going to do to move towards. Avoid goals are things like that you're going to stop doing. So I'm going to stop eating junk food. I'm going to stop staying up too late and scrolling on my phone instead of going to bed, right? Stop. And so that's fine to have those, but it's those approach goals that really move us forward, because it's like creating a plan. You're creating, this is what I'm going to do, right? So it's one thing to say, I'm going to stop eating junk food, but what are you going to do instead? You have to have actions that go along with that. And so those can be really empowering. Yeah.
And like just stopping an action is, I think, harder. Maybe it's not, but it feels harder than starting something positive. Stopping something, it's hard to break habits. I mean, it can be done. Yeah. It can be done, but I like what you're saying. Those approach goals build the activity, the action towards something. And really, I think if we're focused on, instead of all the things we shouldn't do, but focused on the things that we want to do, that is just in general a more positive thing. It's right. And so it's a more positive way of thinking about something. For example, like I'm a teacher, and so I think about the way words matter at school, and we talk about things like growth mindset versus fixed mindset, and all kinds of words that empower versus words that hinder us and limit us. And like I just think about, I help students set goals. That's something I do in my work. And so, if I have a student who forgets to raise their hand and blurts out all the time, I'm not going to say in the student's goal, student will stop blurting out ever again. That feels just kind of, that's what we want, but that feels abstract. And how would we do that? My goal would say, student will use the following strategies to reduce the number of times that they are shouting out. A student will respond to prompts to raise their hand, et cetera, et cetera. I don't need to go into those details, but I mean, this is just kind of almost standard goal setting practice, isn't it? Yeah. To take action towards something.
Yeah, standard, except I think a lot of people don't use it unless they dive into that world of how to set goals, and they learn how to do it, right? Or they and I think when all you have are those avoid goals, stop doing this, you think about when somebody tells you to stop doing something or don't ever do this. That's all you can think about, right? I tell you to stop eating junk food. That's all you're going to think about. You're going to think about junk food all the time. Right.
And about how you're stopping all the time. You're trying not to, and you want to.
And it's like restriction. And I don't know about you, but I don't like that feeling of being restricted. I would much rather feel empowered with more positive language and things I can do. So.
And here's the other thing. Yeah. If I could just add, The other thing is, if you sort of like make yourself occupied, if you occupy yourself with these positive tasks, you have no time to dwell on what you're not doing.
Yes.
It sort of takes care of that without you having to agonize over it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good point. Yeah. And it's how we choose to use our time can really move us forward or keep us stuck. Right. So, wow, that was a lot of really good stuff. Right?
It was.
This podcast might change the world.
It might. It's changing my life.
Yeah. I think you and I both leave these podcasts with a slightly different perspective on something or a new idea. And we just love talking to one another. And I think that I know that that's how this podcast came out. Like we wanted it, and another reason to get together and chat. But did you have a takeaway you wanted to mention?
Well, I just wanted to leave. And I'm trying to think like, where does this fit? But when we talk about, if we could just differentiate between a goal and a habit too. I mean, we did that already, but let's remember goals are great. Goals are wonderful, but let's make sure that we're focusing on the habits that get us there, not on just reaching the goal, because don't fall into the trap that I fell into where I reached a goal and then stopped my habits. That is a practice that is ongoing. Yeah. And, so one thing I'm trying to build into my routine is remembering to wash my face at night. Some people may laugh because that's so simple. And it's like, how could you not remember to wash your face at night? But I'm trying to build this new habit. Yeah. And so, one day, like sometimes the things I tell myself in my head as I'm like climbing into bed and realizing, oh, I've got to wash my face. I try to tell myself that's going to take so long and you're going to be so cold and like, you're going to be all wet and you don't want to do that. And, so anyway, I actually timed myself. And this is how long it took me to wash my face from start to finish, turning on the tap, letting the water warm up, getting out the cloth, cleaning my face, rinsing my face, drying my face, getting back into bed. Like my phone was keeping track of the time. Yeah. In my bedroom, 2 minutes. Yeah. 2 minutes of time. Oh, wow. I was telling myself all kinds of things. I was telling myself, oh, you're going to miss half your show and blah, blah, blah. And you're going to be getting to bed too late. You're going to lose sleep. 2 minutes. 2 minutes, start to finish, including warming up the tap, like ridiculous.
That is a good strategy. Yeah.
But it put it in perspective for me. Yes. This, like I can spare 2 minutes. That's nothing.
Yeah. And so just to add to that, we have much more control over the behaviors, over the skill development, the habits than we do about the outcome. So maybe this isn't so, maybe it's not as related to your face washing skill, but like a weight loss skill or a healthy eating skill or that kind of thing, the goal. So if you have that goal, you have much more control over the habits that get you there because you have control over your behaviors, right? You don't necessarily know if you're going to lose 10 pounds, 20 pounds, whatever, but you can consistently do those behaviors every day. So keeping track of those. So having a goal for each day of eating 5 vegetables or whatever that might be, building those skills, that's what you have control over. And that's much more empowering.
Yeah, that's a great place to stop it on, because I think that is a piece that I didn't have before our conversation today, was that we can't control the goal, but we can control the habits. Yeah. And that is empowering. That's my favorite word, by the way.
Empowering.
Empowered. Mm-hmm. Yeah, empowering. I love that word.
Me too.
So that's great.
Awesome. All right. Thanks for joining us, everyone. And we'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.
All right. See ya.
Bye.